Deep end's higher. The junkler's off the deep end, Mochi. YouTube, we are live. What is this stream? What are we doing? We are doing an after-hours stream. I say after hours. So what I'm going to start doing is after every game we beat, we are going to wind down with bonus content on YouTube, such as reactions, conversations, talk about the game, how we liked the game, how we didn't like the game. So this will probably be maybe like an hour and a half of just straight up conversation and stuff, YouTube videos on Papers, Please. So there was apparently a short film that was made regarding this game, and that's exactly what we're going to be watching right now. It's 10 minutes long. So let's give that a shot, folks, and see what that's about. Papers, Please. This is by Nikita Ordinsky. Okay. Ordinsky. Here we go. All right, let's give it a shot. Maybe I should... Okay, for this stuff, I should make my cam a bit bigger. Let's fix this. Turn the subtitles on? Yeah, I could do that. Let me fix my setup. Wait, what side should I have my camera on, left or right? Probably right side, right? Yeah. So let me put myself here. Look at Mochi. He's so cute. Give him a kiss. Let's have this set up here for now. Sure, it kind of looks like shit, but whatever. What a weird setup, but you know what? It's okay. All right, let's give it a shot. So this is Papers, Please, the movie. See? Okay, everything's on. 1982 East Gretsen, Arastotska. The 6-year war with neighboring Kolchia is over. Kolechia. There is a fragile peace. A border checkpoint now separates East and West Grestin. Arastotska welcomes you, Grestin border checkpoint. I mean, this really does... Okay. It looks the part. And this is a fan-made film. What the fuck? Where's Unk?
Слава Ростоцкий, инспектор!
Слава Ростоцкий, офицер.
Looks like a miserable place, though, for real.
Во сколько?
Не могу сказать. Но что бы ни произошло, это должно случиться именно сегодня. Понимаешь? В любом случае, я твой должник. Но не пуха. Хорошо потрудиться во благо Родины, инспектор!
So that's the guy you help at the very end. Is that Sergio? That's Sergio, no?
Следующий.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is near the end of the game because you get your photo. Yeah. Tensions are high.
Ваши документы. Цель визита.
Работа.
Продолжительность.
3 месяца.
Разрешение на работу.
Извините.
Время пребывания истекло.
Пожалуйста, я как только въеду, я сразу продлю. Я добивался этой работы 4 месяца. У меня семья, я не смогу их кормить. А вам же ничего не стоит, вы же штамп ставите только в паспорт. Никто не узнает.
Yeah, damn right. That's what I would do too.
Простите.
Sorry, sir. Listen, you want to be detained? $5 for me. It's pretty fucked up, though.
Следующий.
Here she
У вас
is.
отсутствует право на въезд.
Я от Сергию. Сказал, вы можете помочь.
Отсутствует право на въезд.
Я прошу вас. Вся моя семья погибла. У меня нет никого, кроме Сергио.
We never got those in game, did we? It's like a telegram
Это ведь про
almost.
меня, да?
Простите меня.
Понимаю.
Wait, he didn't let her through? Really? I feel
Передайте это Сергию. Прощайте.
he was thinking about his family. He couldn't fuck it up. Yeah, he had to think about his family. I mean, in a realistic scenario, you make this choice, but I feel like if you're in this position and your whole family's riding on you, I don't think you'd take those extra steps. Like, it would be pretty miserable. Yeah, I don't think you'd... Oh, was that Georgie? Where was Georgie? Was he there? Georgie. Oh, is that him? Is that Georgie? Is that him in this this world? He's like, oh, I give you Fent. Yes, sir, Georgie. Ow! The goat. I'm glad he made an appearance. Georgie.
Цель визита.
Сестра у меня здесь живет. Уже 3 года не виделись.
Продолжительность.
Ну, пару дней всего, а потом уже назад ехать надо.
Добро пожаловать в Арстоцкую.
Спасибо, инспектор. Следом идет моя жена, так вы с ней не слишком
Oh,
строго.
this was
Она
another one of them.
впечатлительная, потом всю ночь спать не даст.
He doesn't let the wife in.
Ой, передо мной сейчас муж мой был. Надеюсь, не сильно вам надоел?
Цель визита.
Да к сестре его, господи. Вот потащил на старости лет. Небось,
Продолжительность.
денька на 3, не больше. Ну где это видно? Хозяйство простаивает, а мы по гостям шляемся.
В вашем паспорте ваша фамилия указана как Рабинский, а в праве на въезд как Рабинский.
Да я всю жизнь с этим мучаюсь, как только не искрючит. Получаешь свидетельство, там я с мягким знаком. Паспорт меняешь без. Кто ж их разберет-то? Один раз, знаете, даже Рабынски было. Вы уж не обессудьте, пустите. Он ж меня потом проезд всю, прохода мне не даст. Все попрекать будет. Прошу вас, миленький. Я ж назад-то домой нормально не доберусь. Все деньги-то он забрал.
В следующий раз исправьте.
Wow.
Спасибо тебе, родненький. До конца жизни не забуду.
Следующий. Ваши документы.
Oh my God. Wait, is it the husband? Was that not the husband? She was the bomber. Yeah.
Соколечью.
Jesus. I mean, that was, you know what? The fact that that isn't even in the main game, that'd be so dope. Imagine if you could somehow put that video in the game as like a fun thing, like click here to watch it. You know what I mean? Because that in itself is a short. It pretty much sums up the whole game. It's perfect. That's perfect. It literally sums up. I'm not saying the ending of that should be in the game. I mean, like the whole video should be in the game. Like the game is very short, very tight knit, very precise. Oh, is it on the Steam page? That's dope as fuck. That's cool, man. That's awesome. The fact that an indie game could inspire something like that. I mean, imagine making an indie movie about Look Outside. Right? Imagine making a John Carpenter inspired movie where you're inside like a building and there's eldritch horrors outside, right? All of these are great concepts. Like this is so awesome. Right? Like that was short and sweet. It didn't overstay its welcome. You completely understood what was going on. If you've played the game and then you watch this, it's like a 1-to-1 perfect thing. You know, you understand the guy's doing it for his family. He's got his kids in mind, his wife in mind. You know, he's got to be, even for fucking Sergio, did he let her through? He did not let her through. Now, Sergio didn't get a Elise, right? I let her through, though, in my playthrough. But I mean, it really is, in a real scenario, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't bend the rules, right? If tensions were that high and your family was on the line and you could be replaced like nothing, you wouldn't really bend the rules. No, yeah, no. I mean, that was like very, very faithful to what it was. And again, it didn't even overstay its welcome. It was perfect for what it had to be. It completely summed up the whole game. Video games to movies don't have the best track record. You know what, though? They sometimes don't, because the people who take on the movies that are based on games aren't really fans of them, or they're just like overtly cheesy instead of faithful. You know what I mean? No, that was sick as fuck. That has nothing to do. The timer's paused. My bad. That isn't something that's like, oh my god, it's you know, the fucking Dragon Ball Z movie or something from like the anime. Like there's a lot of bad adaptations. That was precise, that was clean, it was fast, and it was done well. Believable as fuck. They go for something safe? Yeah, I mean, it's, again, I would imagine it's hard to kind of trust in that. If you're unaware, I would imagine you need to kind of trust the process, I suppose. You know, say like, hey, we want to keep it faithful, we want to make sure that the fans are taken care of, and that we're not putting things in that don't make sense. You know, even Peter Jackson, it's not a game movie, but Peter Jackson made some very interesting changes throughout The Lord of the Rings, throughout The Hobbit, you know, things that might make a bit more sense through movie adaptation, and yet it was still faithful and people loved it, you know? For the coolest thing about indie games and indie projects is they have a chance at being beyond faithful always. In terms of any sort of adaptation, usually it's made by fans, it's made by small groups of people who really, really love the content, and you're never going to see this in the hands of a big studio. It's never going to be in the hands of, you know, big corporate whatever, right? They're not going to twist it. They're not going to try and make money out of it. It's just too much of an indie project, a niche project. You know, it garners fans for good reasons, and, you know, it just stays that way, and it's awesome. So that was cool as fuck, man. That's awesome. And the fact that it's also on the Steam page is even better, right? Like, that's really, really cool. So we should probably watch all the endings, right? A true 100% speed run of Papers, Please. Papers, Please, all endings. 1 to 20. Sure. So we ended up getting a few weird endings. We ended up getting the one where my whole family dies. The one where I blow up with the bomb. The one where I save my family and go to Tahiti. Only a few people, not all of them. And I think that was it. I think we've only been given about 3 endings, right? If I'm not mistaken. Like, you know what's crazy? The fact that there are... How many copies were sold of this game? A few million? Maybe I'm wrong in that, but how many? A couple 100,000? Tens of thousands? How many copies of this game were sold? The bomb's not an ending. I don't think it counted as an ending, but you still kind of die. Some are similar. But they could be like alternate endings to like other endings. Over 5 million copies were sold. That's fucking crazy for an indie game. And this guy also apparently made Oberdeen, which is also such an amazing game. The interesting thing about this game is that if you have 20 endings, imagine 5 million people playing your game. How many endings are you going to get? You're going to get all 20 of them, you know? And people will be able to share those endings and say, hey, I got them. First time. I fucked up here and this is this. Or I fucked up there and that's that. So for something that seems impossible, you know, trying to get every single ending on your first playthrough, not first playthrough, but multiple playthroughs, all of them have been seen. It's 20 different game experiences. In a way, yeah. All right, let's go see what the endings were. $65 credits. Penalty of 65 credits. Is this the one where you just go broke? 70 credits. Manage your expenses using the checkbox. How do you fail on day one? Negative $515. Is this not just like a public execution at that point? Like, what? You know, I think we actually got this one. Right, we did get this one. Glory to Art Stotska. I think I did on day 2, yeah. Sometimes you just don't even know what the fuck you're doing. 17 citations in one day. Your son has died. Your uncle will die without medicine. The rent has gone up. I'm glad the rent's gone up. Okay, we did get this one too. So these two seem to be the most common, right? Your family dies or you go into debt. Glory to Aristotska. Three of 20. Good morning, Inspector. Is this the one where you get audited? Or you give this guy the fucking information? What? We think a suspicious group attempts to stir trouble. We think some members are at the checkpoint. We've come to talk to you. You give them these things. If you have any information, give it to us, yes? So this is where you give all of the information away. I mean, there's no reason they're going to let you walk. You know too much. I think it's best if you come with me. Exactly. Into the gulag you go. Yeah, you're done. Exactly. Ministry of Information will perform a full audit of your recent activities. The fact that the game can end so quickly and you are kind of just a nobody bozo is pretty interesting. You know, when I first got the my loss screen, I was like, you know what's going to happen? They're just going to resend you back in as a different person, but they didn't. You literally play as one person only. I thought you were going to play as nobodies if you got thrown out. You know, like, oh, next in line, here you go. You're kind of like a nameless dude. I guess not, though. A small discrepancy with your finances. An anomaly in your earnings. Okay, so it's pretty much the same ending over and over and over again. This is an audit. Okay. Your family's held for questioning. The border will remain open under a replacement inspector. Okay, so it's a lot of the repeat stuff, but you get, let's turn that down. Damn. I wish it would tell you. I wish it would tell you what the endings are. Oh, this is when you shoot the guy. Oh, it's when you're a terrorist. What the fuck? You just shoot everyone in the crowd? Oh my god. You're under arrest for the murder of an innocent. Holy shit. The penalty is death. I was gonna say. Your family will be questioned about the involvement. So what if you actually shoot Sergio? Can you do that? Glory to Arstotska. Arstotska. That's pretty fucked up though, eh? Killer sideburns. Cool, dude. What kind of crackhead gameplay is this? Why would you ever do that? You are under arrest for attacking an innocent. Well, it's a trank, though. It's not death. Forced labor. We just got to play solo queue. See, was this game made by one person? Was this game made by one person? No, it's cool that you have the options. The craziest thing is that you'll never see these options in your playthrough. Unless you're a fucking psychopath and you just want to go shoot innocent people. Like, yeah, you're going to see the ending, but you typically won't. Oh, you're killing the guards now, look. Oh. Oh, Sergio's dead. You know, that's crazy that Sergio can actually die. You are under arrest for the murder of an Aristocan officer or official. Penalty's death. Okay, same thing. So the endings in themselves aren't so drastically different. It's just like, oh, you killed an innocent. Oh, you attacked an innocent. Oh, you've killed an officer. It's kind of the same thing. The dev made Oberdeen. Yeah, for sure. Depression Sim in a cool way. It's a very, very cool game. With, again, different options. So what's this one, then? Do you just trank the officers? Yeah. Why would you ever do that? Jesus. And then he dies anyways? Who killed him? Attacking an Aristocan off. Okay. Is that really another ending? It's kind of lame. It's not the best ending. They are kind of like a rehash in a way, yeah. I thought they'd be a little bit more interesting. But I guess if you have all those options, yeah, they have to be panned out in some way. Ending 8 of 20. So what if you shoot the guy in the crowd now? That's what he's gonna do? Yeah. Jesus. Fucking kill everyone. He saved the country! Under arrest for the murder of an innocent. Well, you say innocent, but I say he's a murderer himself. A note appears under the cell door. Oh, really? Okay, this is different. Inspector family is saved, target eliminated, but other problems arose. Replacement inspector not cooperative. EZAC activities hindered. We cannot provide further support. EZAC to hibernate again. Oh, so they failed anyways. Family will be taken to Oberstan. Good luck. Oh, so he was right, though. Your family is saved. He said if you help him, we'll save your family. You're gonna be dead, but your family won't. Okay. I mean, that's kind of a fucked up ending. Why not save everyone, including yourself? And this is going to be attacking an innocent. Yeah. Under arrest for attacking an innocent. Penalty is forced labor. Okay, so it's death, forced labor, or jail. See, I wonder if there's endings with, like, Georgie or Sergio or any of those people, right? I feel like there was going to be at one point, but I guess not. Target was taken to the hospital. Replacement inspector not cooperative. EZAC activities hindered. Okay. Same thing. I figured you'd be able to kind of have an ending with NPCs, but I guess not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there might be still, like, what, 8 more? 10 more. Oh, are you gonna get in shit for having all this crap on your wall? Is that what that is? Oh, you are. Everything going on in checkpoints, a nice break. Yeah, this guy actually fined you for having your kids drawing on the wall. Are you just gonna get taken to jail? Yeah, violating direct orders. Okay. Forced labor. Better than having your nuts smashed. Family sent. Glory to Arstotzka. Okay. You know, that's fun, though. And the fact that in-game you can still go back and kind of, like, replay anyways. You don't need to start at day 1. You can start wherever, any day. I mean, you are going to be CBT'd, though, if you start at like, a shit day. You worthless urchin. I had to pull many strings to get Shay out. It was made very clear to let her through. My patience with you has run out. This is if you deny his words. Theft of Aristotska property. The penalty is forced labor. You worthless urchin. Family was sent back to their village. The border will remain open. Okay. $450 travelers processed. Are they playing in endless mode and not storied mode? I think that's exactly what this is. Shit. I think they kill all the guards here. And if you don't kill them, they kill you because they start walking over. Yeah, watch. He's gonna shoot him. Oh, is he blowing up the wall? And then everyone's gonna get through anyways? Oh my god. Well, that's death. Check on your family. Your information audit is scheduled for tomorrow morning. You can now escape to Oberstand by yourself. By yourself. That's such a fucked up ending. The Grestin border wall has been destroyed. You are under arrest for failure to defend the checkpoint. Send back to their village. Insubordination. Glory to Arasaka. I still, every time I hear the word Aristotska, I think of Arasaka. Not even close, but you know. But why is this an ending? I did the exact same thing. Is he gonna go through with the day? I like how in this guy's playthrough, he has the niece. How do you even make that much money? Hello, Inspector. We have audited your recent activities. Your involvement with a group calling themselves the Order of the Izek Star has been discovered. Several members of this group have been arrested in Aristotska. At least one Izek member has confessed to receiving your help. Ooh, this represents treason of the highest order. Goodbye, Inspector. Oh my god. To the Shadow Realm. The execution is scheduled for tonight. Okay. Your family's safety is unknown. Izek has been crushed. The balance of justice is restored. Is restored, by the way, right. A note appears under the cell door. Inspector, you have betrayed us at the last moment. This chapter of Izek is over. We can offer no help to your family. That's a bad ending. That's actually the worst ending I've seen so far. Your family is dead. You're dead. The Order, fuck them anyways, who cares, is crushed. Probably the worst ending. I'm curious to see what the ending is when you actually save everyone in your family and the niece, because I was never able to adopt her. Okay, so this one's a bit different. You let this guy live, and now he's going to probably shoot you in the cell. Or maybe not. Okay. Isn't that the same ending as before? Order's been pierced. It is a glorious day for the Order of the Izek Star, but you have betrayed us at the last moment. Izek grows strong while the corrupt and greedy flourish. Your betrayal means you have chosen the wrong side. There is no place for you or your family in this revolution. Goodbye, Inspector. Do they kill you too? Okay. When was this game made? Does anyone know when this game was made? Probably 8 years ago, maybe? 7 years ago? 2013. So 12 years ago. Holy shit. You board the train and head for the Northern Territories. You pay for the hastily forged passports and re-entry for the tickets. That's what we got. They look terrible. I wonder if you can fail to enter the country. So this is the one we got. This is the best one so far. Documents. My family's here as well. So this is if he only gets a few tickets, not all of them. And again, 12 years is kind of a long time. I thought this game was like 5-6 years old, to be honest. That's nuts. Welcome to Oberstan next. Yeah, we did get this one. Jesus. So we were able to save more people in that playthrough except the mother-in-law. So that's essentially the best ending we got. So now there's maybe one worse or one better. Hello, Inspector. So that was the final day, and this is if you don't leave. We have audited your recent activities. Your involvement with a group calling themselves the Order of the Izek Star has been uncovered, right? Several members of the group have been arrested in Arstotzka. At least one Izek member has confessed to receiving your help. We know this! This represents treason of the highest order, yes, sir. The lovely stuff. Your family's safety is unknown. Okay. Oh, this is when you get everyone. So this is the best ending possible. This is when you save your whole family. You even have the good music playing. Look at that. The music is playing too. I think that's only exclusive to this. Look at that. The happy ending! Funky. What the hell's that song? Look outside, by the way. That's the good ending. Yeah, you made it, a whole family. So how is that ending not the best one? Only 20 citations? The sound of freedom. So now they just actually walk through. Okay. Same thing. Inspector, it is a glorious day. The border has been pierced. Ezek grows strong while the corrupt and greedy weaken. Oh, maybe this is the best ending. We are now moving you and your family to a better home. Oh, really? Your services as an inspector are no longer required. We need agents. Really? Follow us and together we will complete the revolution. That's kind of the good ending. Glory to the new Arstotzka. So you crush the foul regime and save the country, right? I mean, that's kind of what that reminded me of. So here's 20 of 20. Is there something even better than the one we just got? Hello, Inspector. Wait, you've got more happy music as well. Wait, what? We have audited your activities for the past 20 years. Oh my god. There are some anomalies. But you have served Arstotzka well. We will overlook these small transgressions. You have been cleared of any suspicion. Glory to Arstotzka. A new agreement has been reached with Kolchia. Gretsen border checkpoint will reopen soon. I mean, that's not really a good thing. Return to your post January 1st. You know what? I mean, those endings were cool, but I thought they'd be a little bit more exciting. You know what I mean? I thought they'd be slightly more exciting, to be honest. One of the comments says, the fact that one of the best endings for serving Arstotzka is just get back to work. Yeah, instead of being thrown into a labor camp, instead of being executed, or your family just gets back to, you know, their village, right? Deported. I mean, yeah, there's a few good endings, though. I mean, I would say the best ending is probably working with the Order to take down Arstotzka and then kind of forge a new thing. I think that's the best one, yeah. Because if you just leave with your family, you're safe. But if you actually take them down, everyone's safe. The Johnny Silverhands ending. Pretty much, fuck the corpos. Well, I would imagine the magic wears off. Well, every game, you know, the initial playthrough of any game is going to be infinitely stronger than the replays, right? Because your first impressions of a game are the strongest ones, usually. And I loved it. I really enjoyed playing that game. I thought about it last night. When I got on this morning, I was like, you know what? Like, I can't wait to play fucking Papers, Please. That was a great game. Like, genuinely was a great game. So there's a doc about how it was made. Is this... Hang on.
They want to get from one side to the other. You've got to check their documents and make sure everything's in order.
I want to watch this. So this is how Papers, Please was made and the history of the developer. Okay, let's try that. A developer's history that led to indie success.
You play a border inspector at a contentious checkpoint. people are coming in.
I mean, the fact that, okay, so if I'm not mistaken, one person made all of this. One person made this whole game with the music, the idea, the gameplay, everything. Did they make everything, really? That is impressive. See, that's what I mean by having a vision and kind of seeing it through. It's really hard to kind of have that sometimes. You know, you probably doubt yourself along the way, but the only person you can believe in is yourself. You know, once you're at a certain point, it's like painting a Warhammer miniature. You kind of have to trust the process and just believe in yourself, and by the end of it, you hope it comes out great. You know, what you think is an excellent product will only be, I guess at the end of the day, excellent in how it's received by people. You know, you should believe in yourself, cook the hell out of it, and once you present it to people, if you're incredibly proud of it and you believe it has potential, you know, you let the masses at it, and by God, I mean, this game sold 5 million copies. I think I've heard of Undertale. McBlue, hello, sir. I think I've heard of Undertale. It was also another indie project. You know, even I would want to make a game, but the thing is, you probably have to devote your whole life to this. You know what I mean? Not your whole life, but years and years of your life. Music, animations, gameplay, art, concept, idea, everything, the story. You know, a lot of these indie games may not have the deepest story, but they're very, very intriguing. They're very lively and full of character. You know? It's not like you're trying to create D&D. It's not like you're trying to create Warhammer or Lord of the Rings. You're not creating this massive, expansive universe. What you're creating is a very tight-knit, well-realized vision for a game. You know, sometimes you can have I'm sure a story or a narrative that's like very, very unique in indie projects, which I'm sure that does exist. But for one person to do everything, that is fucking insane. That's so impressive. Streamathon, the game, feed your mochi and your wife survive. If I was to make a game, I would make it as a venturing band of pirates, as an RPG, kind of in the style of like Look Outside, or let's say Fear and Hunger. I've never played Fear and Hunger, but in the vein of that. That's what I would totally do. I mean, the sky's the limit. You know, when you have... You know, that would be pretty hard to do, though, because it isn't so tight-knit. It's a very expansive world. Something like this game, something like Papers, Please, is a very localized experience. You play as a border patrol agent, or a border, you know, checkpoint, hey, you're in, you're out, whatever. And the world beyond that is very brief. You know, it's a very solid core concept. You interrogate people, you say, hey, are you good? You're over. Hey, are you not? You're not. You know, and then when it tells you about the world, it's always in text. It's always in very brief instances of like, hey, here's a jail cell. Hey, here is your family going back to their village. But, you know, a lot of these indie games, again, the idea is just so solid. It's so fucking solid. You know, this game isn't really some Herculean adventure. You're not going off and slaying 50 monsters and uncovering 300 different types of land and all that crap. It's just a very well-executed game. And it's unironically fun. I think a lot of people who look at Papers, Please, even me, you should get Look Outside. Fucking awesome game. That's a creepy game, dude. That's great. Interesting thing here is when I first saw Papers, Please through Steam, it's hard to make a simple concept feel really complex. The core of the game, well, I guess for the sake of, you know, allowing people into a country, it's an information overload, and you have to kind of remember all of it. But yeah, for sure. I mean, if it's a very simple thing, how do you make that intriguing? How do you have depth to interrogating people? You know, what I see here is a game that if it was done in today's times, if it was looked at, 12 years ago and this was what you had, and the guy came back and said, I'm going to make a successor, I'm going to make a sequel, that game would be cracked out of its mind. Like, again, what a solid foundation for something so great. Like, the gameplay, the atmosphere, everything was nailed very well. And, yeah, sometimes simplicity does win over any sort of dense, complicated, big grand adventure of like 500 things going on at once. So, hey, if you can make it work and if people agree on that vision, awesome.
Into your booth and they want to get from one side to the other. You've got to check their documents and make sure everything's in order before you let them through. This is how indie developer Lucas Pope describes one of his own games called Papers, Please. And while it may not sound like the most thrilling gaming experience out there, Lucas somehow managed to captivate millions of players and create something that's
what
not
I
only
thought
fun
too.
to play, but also puts your moral compass to the test.
That is
on
true.
On top of that, he made the puzzle simulation game all on his own. Before going deeper into how exactly Papers, Please was developed, let's first take a look at how Lucas started out in the gaming industry and what chain of events led to his idea for an award-winning indie game. The developer grew up in Virginia, and creating games became part of his life at a young age. It all started when his parents bought him a Macintosh Plus that came with a packed-in application called HyperCard, which provided a way to script tiny interactive pieces of software through a programming language. Lucas tinkered around with the application, creating sprites that could move around, interactive buttons, and so on. He said that was when he first started realizing how much cool stuff you could do with software. His parents encouraged him to pursue art, and that drove him to start learning how to play piano, as well as taking up drawing in his free.
When would that ever happen in today's times? His parents encouraged him to pursue art. When would that ever happen? Seriously. In today's times, whose parents would say pursue art? I mean, those are some real ones. My mother had always said, pursue what you love. She's always been very supportive of that. I've had fatherly figures in my lifetime basically say the exact opposite. Get out there, get a job, make some money. Right? Like, you're out of high school, you're not going back to school. You either go continue your academics or you get a job. And I was able to juggle both. Not academics, I was a fucking failure. But for the sake of hobbies, pursuing something that I've enjoyed, I pursued playing games on the side. I started streaming casually on the side. And, it wasn't something that I would do all day because I had a full-time job, but like very briefly after work, I'd be streaming, I'd be playing League. And, I think for people who have hobbies, everyone has hobbies. Type your hobby in the chat room right now. If you are not at work or school or doing the main thing that you do daily, what is your hobby in your free time? Papers, Please is done. Weightlifting and cars, Fent, gaming, art, Fent, games, gaming, gambling. That's not gambling, that's gaming. Piano, language learning, art, video games, watching you, computers, Warhammer, dinosaur, Spiggling my Dorf, games and music, self-defense classes, music, level design, game prototyping. That's cool. Motorcycles. See, everyone wants to do something. It could be watching people. It could be learning. It could be the most simplistic thing out there. But the fact is, we all enjoy something in our free time. And again, if you're given a chance to kind of get on with that stuff quite a bit and eventually down the line make that into something you really enjoy, maybe into a career. I mean, a lot of these things, a lot of these indie devs, it all starts with like a spark. Everything starts with a spark. Maybe you fucking play music, and how you played music initially or how you got into it was you saw a guy play guitar and you're like, I want to do that. And then from that thought, it turned into you running a band and being successful, right? It's cool, man. Again, you don't really give up on your dreams, but you have to kind of temper them a little bit, I think, throughout life. But, hey, if you've got parents who are supportive of certain things and you're around that age, you know, that's awesome. Otherwise, you know, get to work. Go grind. I don't. No, some people for sure don't have parents who are supportive of what their kids do. A lot of parents, I think, years and years and years ago, they weren't really aware of what technology is, or rather was. You know, it's just a different thing. It's for the youngins. Or, you know, oh, music, you're never going to be a successful artist, blah, 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 blah. God forbid they say that. It's pretty fucked up. But, you know, I feel like if you have a kid, you should kind of probably believe in them a little bit, right? But at the same time, it's, you know, you don't want to see them kind of fail in something, so, yeah. You do have to be realistic, exactly. Well, that's why I said you have to temper. You have to temper your dreams a little bit and your expectations. Because, yeah, your parents hopefully do look out for you. And, you know, if you say, hey, I want to go play music for a living, and they're like, go do it, and then it doesn't work out, and you've tried this and this and this, and, you know, it could be rough. But I think for a lot of people, again, having a hobby, being able to do things in your free time that you enjoy, that, you know, maybe one day you do want to turn that into a career. You know, keep that dream alive. Keep that stuff alive, man. If you could ever play music locally at gigs, if you could fucking run a gaming store, if you could become a teacher, if you could do anything, something different that you've always enjoyed, that's awesome. It was a bit of it was both, yeah. I was like 7 days a week. Groceries, come home, stream League, play a bit of League, late at night. That was really just it. How did you take the risk from working to streaming? I think I didn't quit my job, by the way. I never quit my job. I got fired from my job. I got let go. I got let go, and I think I was in a bit of a position where I was living with my mom in the basement, and you know, I'd help pay rent, I'd help do all this stuff, I'd help buy food with the money I had. But there was a very brief time where I didn't have a job, and I just said, fuck it, we're just going to stream. You know, hey, let's go show people what TF is, what all this stuff is. And eventually, people really enjoyed my content, and it picked up, and it just became what it is today. You know, like, some things just happen out of the blue. That was certainly one of them. But I think for me, I was in a position where I wasn't on my own, and things were a little bit easier going, I'd say. Because if you get to a certain point where, yeah, you don't have people to fall back on a little bit, and you kind of want to go out and make your way with a hobby or a game or whatever, it's very hard to do that. It is really, really hard to do that, because I understand you have bills to pay, you got people to take care of sometimes, you know, you got to stay... Plan! You need a plan! There you go, Mr. Mayo, thank you, sir. You need a plan. There you are, sir. Anyways, let's continue.
To start learning how to play piano, as well as taking up drawing in his free time. Besides the piano, Lucas also started playing the drums in high school as part of a band called Aftermath. Furthermore, his dad was a handyman, giving Lucas plenty of access to mess around with parts and tools, which developed his interest for mechanical engineering. Eventually, he decided to pursue engineering as a career when he became friends with someone in high school that shared Lucas's interest in computers and robots. They started experimenting with robots they got from Radio Shack by tearing them apart and hooking them up.
Radio Shack is such a pile of dandruff. You know what's crazy is this kind of sounds like my life. Art, gaming, music. That's pretty much all I did. That's all I was good at. I was an academic failure. And I used to go to Radio Shack.
Developer, but it did lead him to apply for a mechanical engineer program at Virginia Tech by tearing them apart and hooking them up to Commodore 64
hello, sir.
systems
Thank you, buddy, for the
so they could
93.
program them. It wasn't anything too impressive according to the developer, but it did lead him to apply for a mechanical engineer program at Virginia Tech University. However, once he got into the university, he started to realize his true passion lied in programming, not engineering. What I learned is that the real world is messy and hard. You've got to deal with gearing and lubrication and switches and sensors, all the stuff that I actually wasn't that interested in. Once I got into C++ programming, I realized this is where I want to be. The magic happens in software. There's no rules. Programming also allowed Lucas to combine his love for drawing, playing music and video games. As a kid, he loved playing on the Atari 2600, before moving on to the Nintendo Entertainment System and experiencing Wizards and Warriors, one of his fondest gaming memories. The summer after his freshman year at university, publisher GT Interactive released Quake, which not only reinvigorated Lucas's passion for gaming.
Quake was Quake id Software? What was it Quake? Or what was Quake or what? Sorry, id Software's Doom. Who made Quake? Hey man, what's up? Just popped in. I hope things are well with you and those you care about. I genuinely do. When you were reading it, or maybe when you were reading it back to myself, feeling like I'm drifting to a bad spot again. But I appreciate you and what you provide to many of us. No, hey, you're good, man. Take care of yourself, bro. Don't be so hard on yourself. Take care of yourself. You know, hey, you've got family. You've got people I hope to talk to. Go on Discord. You know, hey, we're all here to talk. You know, have a conversation and chat, man. Everyone's cool. But hey, keep your head up, bro. You know, some days are fucking miserable. Some days you feel like you just don't want to exist anymore. And you know what? You wake up the next day and you say, my God, it's a new start. Let's make the most of it. But I understand, man. Yeah, some days are tough. Some days are the worst, dude. And all we can do is keep moving on. You know, don't give up, bro. Have a nice walk. Have some water. Put on some good music. Settle down and maybe try and do something you enjoy, sir. You know, you don't got to rush through this stuff. Well, I think it's a lot of people go through that, man. I go through that. Everyone fucking goes through that. If you think any person on this earth hasn't gone through extremely low points in their life, I mean, we're all in that same boat. We're all in the same boat. Yeah, some people, I'm sure, have it a lot worse in some cases, but I think we've all felt some sort of mental anguish or, you know, just something physical, you know. Sometimes you do need to sleep on it a little bit. And again, I can't speak for everyone. People's problems go past a day, 2 days, 3 days. You know, you wake up, you worry about stuff. But again, you know, sometimes these things take a while and you just have to work with them. Deals with it differently. Yeah, for sure. Hey, like I said, we all have shit going on. And we all deal with it in different ways. So, yeah, it is, it's hard. He needs a plan. No, you're good, bro. Hey, I'm just telling you, man. Take care of yourself. Everyone here should be taking care of themselves, you know, and those in their life, you know, with whatever it may be. And, you know, like I said, man, tomorrow could be a new beginning. At least I hope it is. So, good luck with it, sir, and no worries, man. People who look like they have it all together really sometimes don't. Do I look like someone who has it all together? Am I a sound of mind person? Do I sound sane? Do I get on and, hey, you don't got to do that, brother, but thank you, man. 100% you do. Do I really? You seem like a tough guy. Damn right, son. Check the fucking muscles. Check it. Damn. muscles. It's fat. Dude, Beardface. Hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate the 5 subs, man. But like I said, dude, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know how you're going to get through it, but we figure things out, bro. You're stinky, scoundrel. Thank you, sir. Hey, before you did say you wanted to go. Before you go, can I give you a spin? You sound like you're 30 years old. I'm 29 in about 3 days. Best community ever. No, this community's fucking awesome, man. You know, we went from flaming each other and hating each other with years of League to being fine folk. Spin it, but spin it for someone else. No, you're good, sir. Let's spin it. I wonder what it's going to be. We're like Dutch's crew. Well, then who's Dutch? It's not me, is it? Why am I Dutch? I'm not delusional. Okay, if I was somebody from the Vanderland gang, who would I be? Be honest. Oh! Dude! Look at that. Your day did just get better. Holy shit. 2 times. 2 times. Look at that. There you are, sir. Damn. We don't see that often. Excellent. It's 1,200. There you go, sir. Awesome. You think you can get into Diamond? I am going to be into Diamond. Javier Uncle Micah. Micah's awesome. He's a fucking loser, though. But again, Beardface, good luck with it, sir. Hey, we all root for good times in life. We understand. Mochi, what are you doing? Mochi. You know what? If you're going through a tough time in life, do you know what you need? You need a dog. Press 1 if you agree. You need a dog. For real, you need a dog. You need a dog. Dogs are like people. They're people, and they love you unconditionally. Look at this. Oh, I'm a squid. I have a family. Please don't eat me. Ah! Don't want to eat him. He's really not interested. Anyways. Variety. Well, I appreciate it, man. No, as I said, bro. You're not alone. Nobody's alone on Earth. Everything people go through, whatever we deal with, there's a lot of people you can talk to about that stuff. This is ending up on YouTube. Well, we are on YouTube. We're on YouTube right now. We're trying to watch this video. You sound like Shaco for a moment. I could be Shaco. I think I've got more lore than Shaco because of the Pentakill event. But yes, we are on YouTube. So let us continue. We are doing the After Hours Papers, Please watch along. And again, Beard, good luck with it, sir.
But also compelled him to take a first real shot at a game development project. He started
One day at a time,
making
man.
friends with people all over the world during multiplayer matches in Quake, as well as with people that were on the official forums. Lucas and his group of friends eventually decided to form a development team called Apocalypse and started working on a Quake mod called Malice. The developer helped with the art, modeling, and also did parts of the backend work.
Oh my god, was that GameSpy? GameSpy! Press 1 if you remember GameSpy. Cola Drinker, thank you, sir. Press 1 if you remember GameSpy. I used to play GameSpy with Dawn of War. Dawn of War is what I played GameSpy with. I think it was, wasn't GameSpy kind of like an application, or it was like a server, or it was some sort of, what the hell was GameSpy? I don't know what it was exactly, but I remember it being tied to pre-Steam servers. Oh, is that what it was? GameSpy was an anti-cheat. Private servers? They had them in Dawn of War. I remember playing the Dawn of War multiplayer, like the Warhammer game when it first came out, and you'd always have to sign into GameSpy and all that stuff. That was cool. That's old. Jeez. It's got things like a Bionicle.
The developer helped with the art, modeling, and also did parts of the back-end work. Malice would turn out to be so good that publisher Quantum Axis bought the rights and put the mod on store shelves in 1997. That year, the Quake mod managed to win a couple of awards, and was later even packed in with a Quake retail package by GT Interactive. Shortly after their initial success, Apocalypse officially incorporated in Virginia as Radloop Games. Unfortunately, their first project as an official game development studio didn't quite work out. In February 1998, Radloop started development on HAP 12, an ambitious third-person action-adventure game. However, the inexperienced team had problems successfully pitching the game to publishers.
One of the most interesting things about game development or any sort of technology is, do you think when these people were making this game, or any game back in the day, that they thought that was the peak of gaming? That they thought it couldn't be any better, and what they were doing was kind of like their magnum opus? Because how would you ever think 20 years into the future we'd have like Red Dead Redemption? We'd have like Cyberpunk or Subnautica. How could you even fathom that stuff with the technology back in the day? Probably. You know, that's crazy to think that like the stuff we used to have, the stuff we used to make, well, it's much different. Yeah, it's way different. But it's interesting to think of because, like, you know, these people were pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into this stuff. And lo and behold, let's say 5-6 years later, the technology was completely different. Like, this shit was night and day. There is no end. Yeah, there's no end to technology. Yeah, whatever we decide to do will be the next step, the next advancement. Kojima making every game he's ever made.
And back in those days, without digital stores or platforms like early access to fall back on, publishers were absolutely necessary to get a game to the public.
Game?
You had to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in printing discs and putting them in boxes and shipping them to Walmart. You had to produce all this crap before you made any money, and that means you needed a publisher. Yeah. So you had to have a publisher and a distributor that takes care of those expenses, because we were a bunch of kids and we couldn't afford that kind of thing. While Radloop was trying to sell HAP 12 to publishers, Lucas came up with another idea. Something less ambitious but much more unique, and something that played into a growing trend at the time: discount CD-ROM software. The developer wanted to create a car mechanic game titled Gearhead Garage, where the only goal is to fix up cars, without ever actually driving them. He believed there could be a niche for that sort of game. I grew up working on cars with my dad. That angle worked out really well, actually. It's like a position in your mind of what you're getting. You're getting a car mechanic game. When Radloop was pitching HAP 12 and Gearhead Garage...
I mean, we probably have games like this now, right? Simulations. Like, owning a fucking grocery store, you stock shelves and things in gaming. That's cool. There is a niche for this, though, for sure, 100%. You could literally drive a tractor in Tractor Simulator. There's a niche for everything. Whatever you think is out there and might not have an audience, has an audience. There's fucking gooning games on Steam that people have wanks to, I'm sure, that are so overtly fucking perverse. And that's a niche. You don't see that shit in the news. You got the gooning cults going after those games. Yeah, so there is a niche for this stuff. It's cool. And again, this is like a precursor to some sort of like job simulator game. You know? Like Power Wash Simulator, exactly. And it's cool, right? It's fun. I think I played one that was like Viscera Cleanup Detail, where you go around cleaning up crime scenes. Like, that was interesting. So...
The developers noticed that lots of game companies had a value division that specifically put out games to sell for cheap at places like Walmart, directly playing into the discount CD-ROM software trend of the late 90s. So they arranged a meeting with Activision Value, an Activision subsidiary, who were impressed with the prototype Ratloop had built and agreed to publish Gearhead Garage. It was released in 1999 and became quite a hit, selling a couple of 100,000 copies according to Lucas. Activision was pleased with the results, and they immediately wanted to expand the Gearhead Garage concept to other vehicle activities, such as Jet Ski Garage for example. However, the publisher also wanted to implement driving sections on top of the mechanic systems in place, something Lucas was firmly...
That could be a pretty... Imagine making your own cars in a game, and then you have to drive them and sell them to people, and you have no clue how to make a car, you just try and make it work. There's an engine simulator game, it's probably the closest to real life that we have, messing with parameters. Oh, there's a ton of those things. I would imagine there's a lot of simulators for, like, creating... again, putting together a car engine, or just making something that we typically make in life. You know, people watch YouTube videos on how to do that stuff too, without even like putting their hands on anything to kind of learn. So, you know, it would be interesting to think that, like, hey, some games could have you with hands-on learning, with relevant things. And even if you don't plan on doing that stuff, people can find it fun. I walked in on Ivana playing the fucking drug simulator game where you own a Fent empire and a drug empire. I've seen her play fucking truck simulator. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? She's like, I'm driving my truck. I'm like, how long have you been playing this for? She's like, 3 hours, 4 hours. Really? I mean, people love that stuff, you know? Or I'm creating a grocery store. I think it was Schedule 1, yeah. Euro Truck is amazing. No, I'm sure it's awesome. You know, it even gets better when you've got the wheel, right? The wheel, you need the wheel. Farming Sims, yeah. Orsted, thank you, man, for the 2 months. Appreciate it, bro.
Against. The contract between
These are pretty cool
and Activision
things.
clearly stated that Ratloop retained the rights to all their IPs, making it impossible for Activision to produce more Gearhead games on their own. After this brief clash, the members of Ratloop started to go their separate ways. Without more ideas or projects keeping them together, it was time for Lucas to start a new chapter in his development career. Funnily enough, one of his next projects was a sequel to Gearhead Garage on the Game Boy Advance that featured an outdoor driving mode. When the original Gearhead game came out on PC, 3D graphics were still somewhat of a novelty, and Lucas wanted to recapture that magic on the Game Boy Advance. While 3D was certainly possible on the handheld, it remained a rarity because of the weaker hardware. During development, however, the impending launch of the Nintendo DS and its advanced 3D capabilities demotivated Lucas to finish the project, as he mentioned in an interview with Ars Technica. This unlucky chain of events compelled him to, quote, get a real job. Upon further inspection, it's still possible to download a 30-minute demo ROM of Gearhead Garage Adventure on the Ratloop website. The webpage also mentions that the GBA game demo was developed in 2006, 2 years after the release of the Nintendo DS, and that it was never released due to pricing issues with Nintendo's cartridges. When Lucas decided to get his first job at an established...
I know I'm pausing a lot, but there is some sort of magic. Not even some sort of. Everyone knows this magic. Press 1 if you grew up playing video games. Press 1 if you grew up playing games to a degree. It could be 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, whatever. I think a lot of people here probably did play games growing up. Some people maybe not. You know, I guess he's not wrong. He was talking about it earlier where the whole thing was that, you know, if you wanted to produce a game, you had to have all of these physical things made. You had to have a publisher to fund it all, and, you know, you had to have discs and boxes and manuals. And I feel like if I was to ever make a game, I feel like if anyone here was ever to make a game, or maybe you have made a game, I feel like to release it on Steam would feel absolutely incredible, knowing that anyone could get a copy of it and play it. But at the same time, I would feel kind of empty, not having some sort of physicality to that release. You know, because things can be taken in a billion different directions, knowing that we can just kind of make them. Here's Steam, here's this platform, yada, yada, yada. And you can play it endlessly. But your game kind of only exists online. So, I don't know. It's an interesting concept. The convenience of it, it's always boiled down to convenience and I guess also funds, right? Typically when indie devs make games, they go to like GoFundMe and things like that, and you know, they've got their campaign running and everything's jump-started by fans, which is awesome. That's incredible. Especially that people want to fund something, you know, so far down the line. It's like, how long is this game going to take? They're like, we don't care. Here's some money. But I still do miss physical copies. I still miss tangible paper with my games. I think I had recently seen the collector's edition of Death Stranding 2. And I think a lot of games do this now, where you don't get a steelbook, you don't get a disc, you don't get paper. If you buy a game outside of a digital service, you get the bare minimum. Smell of opening a new game, it was great. It was, you cut the seal on top, you go, so good, just like books. You know, instead of reading the book, you just inhale the book. It's as good as reading. Does that include emulators? Well, there is some sort of tangibility to owning something. For the sake of emulators and games that you play briefly, I mean, yeah, I can understand, again, the convenience of having a million things on hand and not needing shelves of games. You know, people aren't collectors. But I think I still personally do miss the time when you'd buy a game and you'd get all that physical stuff. Installed it on my PC and could barely get into it. Felt pretty void. Yeah. That's why I've come to think of games as just kind of passing experiences or fleeting experiences. Instead of holding on to something like very, very close at hand, say physical copy, how I view games are just chapters in my life. You know, you only have so many hours in the day, so many weeks, so many months. You experience it, you take those memories with you, and that's what I value the most right now in gaming. Because if you were to kind of, again, obtain physical copies of every game you've played, that would be a nightmare for some people. That'd be way too much. You don't own anything and you will be happy. You know, I can't speak for everyone. Like I said, there is a... not being burdened by a shit ton of cases, especially for games that, you know, maybe aren't your favorites, but at least you've played them. The convenience is nice. I can't argue convenience. Even Spotify. I used to collect music most of my life. I played bass, I was into metal, you know, posters, tapestries, CDs, signed merchandise. A lot of my paychecks through high school were just music. Music. And, you know, I believe I've got 3 to 4 cases of just CDs and music and memorabilia and things that I had picked up over the years that I have no space for now because it's just too much. But I still have it, and it's the memories and stuff like that, and it's cool to go back and say, hey, this is this is that. For the sake of maybe playing 300 games at a time, 400 games, you kind of have to be like a hardcore collector to have that stuff work. One of the great things of old games, manuals, the packaging, vinyl. No, all of it's awesome. It felt like a complete package. You got everything. I grew up... oh, no, we already read that. The Worms Armageddon manual. Bro, the manuals were so dope. I think what was so special, though, too, was the maps. I think Rockstar put maps into their games. So, like, you had the manual, but you also had the paper map, which was super fucking cool. Switches, you own licenses for games? Yeah, that's pretty trash. And the only paperwork you get in a Switch manual or a Switch box, a game, is like, don't eat the disc, don't suck the paper. You will get a seizure if you do this. You know what I mean? It's just a warning. You can have the... Why not have paperwork with the warning? Physical copy of Cyberpunk came with bonus stuff. That'd be dope. Dude, I feel like, why... I know it's money. I would go all out. If I created a game, fuck yeah, physical copy. Even if you can't technically have a physical copy anymore because there's no disc trays or anything. I mean, like, at least give the people something. At least give the people some, like, exclusive things for purchasing your physical product somewhere. It's, well, yeah, the expenses, you do get into a lot when you start adding things. Yeah, physicality is great in gaming. I mean, if you grew up in, like, the 90s, early 2000s, stuff like that, like, physicality is kind of name of the game. My whole childhood was spent playing with little action figures and army men from, like, Dollarama. Bionicles at times, Warhammer at times. You know, I've always enjoyed the tangibility of things that you've bought. The Vice City map. Cool, man. It's awesome. We're paying $70 per game. You may as well add something. I know. It's, you know, the last collector's edition I bought is behind me. It's right there. It's that crate. It's the Bilgewater game. That actually comes with a lot of cool stuff that I probably should crack out and look through. But it doesn't have a game. It's just more so fun things to remind you of the game, which, if that's the case for gaming moving forward, where you can't even have discs or cartridges or anything, well, that's cool. I'm feeling like an unk. You should. I think, again, gaming, you can't fight the change of gaming. You can't fight technology advancements. If consoles, if any of these things will no longer support discs, you got to get on with it. How you do that is completely up to you. But in some way, I would like to be reminded of the game I've played. And if that means, you know, having a little memento from the game or whatever it may be, I mean, so be it. That's cool. Of course, you still want the disc, but you can't put that anywhere. Let's continue.
Established game studio, he moved to Los Angeles in the hopes to find work quicker. His plan succeeded, as he soon joined Real Time Associates in 2003, which is where he also met his wife, Keiko Ishizaka, who's a game developer herself. While he enjoyed working there for a few good years, things eventually got too tense between the investors and the development team, prompting Lucas to look for another job. Luckily for Lucas, Naughty Dog soon started hiring many people after they cancelled the Jak and Daxter project for the PSP.
I played Jak and
The studio
Daxter.
simply couldn't develop both the original
PSP was
Uncharted
cool.
and Jak and Daxter at the same time, so they passed the
I used to watch
project
Family
on to
Guy on
High
PSP.
Impact Games, who reworked
Same.
the project into Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier, that was released in 2009 for both the PS2 and PSP. In 2006, Lucas was hired by Naughty Dog as a GUI programmer/designer, and much to his surprise, he was the only one at the company working on GUI tools full-time. The key for me at Naughty Dog was I like tools programming, I like visual tools, I like user interface kind of stuff, and no one likes that. Literally, in the games industry, it's really hard to find people who like writing tools, so that was kind of my advantage. Lucas joined the studio 8 months before the first Uncharted would be released, and during those months he developed 4 major tools that would assist the other designers for things like mapping out all the levels, the game's menus, the game's save system, and language localization. All these tools vastly improved efficiency. For example, before Lucas joined the team, one person was assigned to manually manage thousands and thousands of voice and text files for roughly 12 languages on an Excel spreadsheet. His language localization tool, along with the other GUI tools, saved the day on several occasions, according to former Naughty Dog president Christophe Balestra. The developer's multiple skills and talents certainly helped him excel at the studio, as he was able to design and program things like a menu system all on his own. Normally, such a task would require multiple dedicated artists and programmers. Despite that, development on Uncharted was still a rocky experience, with important decisions being made while the game was nearing its release. One of the cool things about Uncharted 1 is, we had no idea what we were doing. Uncharted 1 was announced, and then Gears of War came out, and Gears invented the modern third-person shooter. Suddenly, Gears came out and showed them how to do it, so we changed everything 6 months before release. Lucas stuck around at Naughty Dog for Uncharted 2, fulfilling the same role as before. He was eager to learn more from his talented colleagues and implement more ideas he had for new GUI tools. However, during Uncharted 2's development, he got an itch to start creating games independently again. About a year before Uncharted 2's release date, the developer took 2 weeks off to develop a game called Mightier with his wife Keiko. The whole idea behind the game was based on camera import functions, something similar to what the iToy did a few years prior. Although it's probably fair to say, Lucas and Keiko had something more ambitious in mind. Mightier required players to print out puzzles, draw on those puzzles, and then hold the drawing to a computer webcam. The game would then create a 3D level based on the player's drawing, where you could jump and run around in.
What the Kojima? What in the Kojima is that? That's ambitious. You draw your own levels, the camera takes them and creates them in-game?
The game would then create a 3D level based on the player's drawing, where you could jump and run around in. It would go on to be nominated for an award at the Independent Games Festival competition hosted by the yearly Game Developer Conference. None other than Valve took notice after Midier's nomination and asked the duo if they wanted to put the game on Steam as a free download. Since they both had full-time jobs as game developers, they weren't necessarily looking for any financial compensation, so they agreed to put Mightier on Steam. Despite not winning the award, the game put a seed in both the developers' minds, and sure enough, 1 year later, after Naughty Dog wrapped up development on Uncharted 2, Lucas and Keiko left their jobs to become full-time indie developers instead in 2010. Aside from wanting to make smaller games again, Lucas simply didn't have any motivation left to work on another Uncharted game. Working on Uncharted at Naughty Dog was great, but for me I could see the next game was going to be Uncharted 3, and I had ideas about small games I wanted to make. So I was sort of not looking forward to working on Uncharted, because they're great games, but they follow a definite formula, and after Uncharted 2, which I thought was an awesome game, I couldn't see a lot of potential for new cool ideas in the franchise, I guess. Lucas further said that there was never any animosity, and that he's still friends with former Naughty Dog president Christophe Balestra and current co-president Evan Wells. They both didn't want him to leave the studio, but they weren't surprised either that Lucas wanted to go his own way and follow his dream of becoming an indie developer. Since Lucas and Keiko weren't tied down to a certain location anymore, the couple decided to move to Japan to be closer to Keiko's family. Their first project was a game titled Hellsing's Fire, and Lucas specifically chose the iPhone as their platform because he wanted to challenge himself and figure out an interesting way to make.
You gotta respect that shit. These two people they quit their jobs to pursue indie development full time. I mean, you really gotta trust the process. You really gotta trust the process. That's impressive. We need Tobias to add the Uncharted series to the list. That is a well, you take that risk once you've made enough money to kind of just sit on it and say, hey, we can spend a few years trying to see what happens. No, that's incredible. You know what? That's the dream, to try and be able to do something like that and then make it a full-time gig, especially when you love it. And, you know, him saying like, I'm assuming when you're a creative in terms of gaming, you probably have a million ideas as to how many games you want to make, the different styles, the fucking genre of game, how it's going to look, yada, yada, yada. Because if you really take a look at the two games that this guy's made, at least from what I'm aware of, Papers, Please and Obra Dinn are so fresh in their own right, and they're very well realized, and they're completely different games, which is super fucking cool. So if you can cook those games up and have them be their own beast, stand up on their own 2 feet, basically, again, just the memorable pieces of art, you know, fun to play, fun to look at, fun to listen to, unique. How many more game ideas can you have if those two were created by like one person?
Make use of touch controls. It didn't take long for the duo to settle on the
My
core
bedtime is soon,
mechanic,
yeah.
moving around torches as sources of light that pierces the shadows to ultimately destroy the monsters in your way. While it won Best Mobile Game in 2011 at the Independent Games Festival, it didn't do great financially. We sold 60,000 copies in the first week, but those weren't enough to replace our former Naughty Dog and 2K salaries. After Hellsing's fire, Lucas and Keiko got the opportunity to port the game Rocket Birds to PS3, and this project would serve as the catalyst for Papers, Please. In order to work on the Rocket Birds
What is
project,
that?
the couple had to temporarily move to Singapore for about a year. During that time, they decided to travel around Southeast Asia and see the sights, which meant they had to cross a lot of borders. This included occasional trips back to the US, and Lucas remembered this one time he was greeted by someone from the customs checkpoint. A huge guy, barrel-chested, with a bulletproof vest on, tells me, "Welcome home." Just hearing that from this guy kind of hit home of how, like, welcome I felt coming home to America, and how I didn't get that feeling at all going to other places. How other people don't get that. It brought the border experience to a nice head. Additionally, he found the actual job of inspecting people's papers fascinating. Those guys are checked out pretty much the whole time. They have a specific thing they're doing, and they're just doing it over and over again. While Lucas had plenty of ideas on how to turn those border control tasks into game mechanics, he was lacking a compelling story to justify making a game around that concept. However, he recalls watching either Argo or The Bourne Identity, and that's when he realized it would be possible to make
Okay. He was dreaming. He had a bad dream. You have a bad dream, Mochi. It's okay. Okay. Baby. He had a bad dream. That was Mochi dream. I think was that a bad dream? He had a bad dream. There's my son. There you go. Sit. It's okay. Potato now. There's a few more elsewhere.
a good story on top of those core mechanics. At the time, he and Keiko were living off their savings, and on top of that, Keiko had just become pregnant with their first child. Therefore, they agreed Papers, Please would be Lucas's last project before he had to find a real job again. In mid-November 2012, he officially started developing Papers, Please, and back then he estimated it would take a couple of weeks to finish development. Once the developer had established a concept and a mock-up to go along with it, Lucas decided to keep a public development blog on the Independent Gaming Source forums. The people there took a liking to the concept, even providing valuable feedback throughout the entire development.
Oh my God, what is that?
This gave Lucas some much needed confidence, since he was unsure if a wide audience would actually like a game about checking documents. During interviews, he frequently mentioned how stupid and weird the concept of simply checking people's documents sounds, but that aspect ended up becoming part of the game's appeal. It made people curious as to how a concept like that would actually translate into gameplay. Additionally, the fact that it sounded so boring was a challenge for Lucas to make it interesting, to go against what people were expecting. Whenever the developer starts a game project, he always puts the mechanics first, to make sure it's actually fun to play before adding some greater meaning to the game. Therefore, it didn't take long for the developer to share a build on the TIGS forums where you could simply move some documents around your desk. That simple prototype already received some praise on the forum. Lucas decided to develop Papers, Please with the open source platform called Hex, and he used the NME library to make cross-platform development easier. Most of the art and animations were done with Photoshop. The developer would share new builds of the game with the independent
hear
gaming
this
source
thing?
community in quick.
He howled so loudly, fucking scared me and everyone on stream. He was dreaming. We're sitting here watching a video, all I hear is, oh! Seriously, it's fucking creepy. He's like a Wendigo. You Wendigo, baby. He was sleeping in his bed. It was scary. It was scary. Anyways, let's continue.
Succession, allowing him to identify more
Scary.
precisely what was working and what wasn't. Papers, Please would prove to be the ultimate challenge for Lucas. Finally, he had a project where he was able to completely let loose and use all of his different skills without compromising.
Looneyborg, thank you for the
After
tier 1.
all,
Appreciate
he
it, man.
was responsible for
Thank you.
all the art, writing, music, and programming.
That is CBT. That right there is CBT, but by God, you must feel like one of the most accomplished people once you do this. If you can create a game, the art, the writing, the music, and the programming, I mean, what can you not do? That must be so satisfying and so fucking scary at the same time. Imagine creating something completely on your own that started out as a simple interaction at a fucking booth at like an airport. You know, that's crazy. Probably had fun doing. You know what? I'm sure if you're really into it, you're going to have so much fun, but it still is a bit scary. If you quit your game or you quit your job to pursue game development, people are talented, man. And when people have a vision, the only person they can trust is themselves in that vision. It's not that other people can't chime in and say, hey, you should try this. And, you know, he's like, oh, that's awesome. Like, okay, sure. But if you're an indie dev and you're kind of like very much in the way of creating your own vision, you really have to trust your process. You have to trust your beliefs, your dreams of a game. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with asking other people, say like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? But you are presenting something that you've cooked up. So, you know, we hope people believe in it. Because that's impressive as fuck. That's really cool. Hi, Mookie.
His interest in user interface interaction still shines through though, as Papers, Please is a very UI-heavy game, but Lucas was arguably able to make it work in all the right ways. Additionally, he put his programming skills to the test, and developed procedural generation systems to generate thousands upon thousands of random travelers, as well as their accompanying documents, with just a click of a button. The dystopian document thriller, as Lucas calls it, is set in the fictional country of Arstotzka, which might sound familiar to fans of the developer's work. Earlier in 2012, the developer wanted to flex his programming muscles in preparation for Ludum Dare, a popular game jam competition. The result was the Republia Times, a flash game where the player takes the role of an editor-in-chief of one of the main newspapers of Republia, a country at war with Arstotzka. While it may seem that Lucas had ideas for a greater universe, he admits he had no intention of creating interconnected games. There was never an idea for the universe. The gameplay concept for the Republia Times is something that I had talked about with my wife a little bit. Like, I want to make a game that's just text that has to deal with propaganda. It just has 2 countries in it, which are just 2 typical battling countries with names that both sound similar and are typical doublespeak kind of names. He further explained that the Republia Times benefited greatly from its dystopian fascist setting, because you can just tell the player they have to do this because your communist government is telling you that that's your job, and those are the rules. Incidentally, this
Wait,
backdrop
what the
also
fuck is
suited
this?
Papers, Please's concept. That played into Papers, Please.
Completely different game, right? The Truth of Arstotzka. That was a completely different game. So my brain was offline for 2 seconds. I was looking at Mochi. I was not paying attention to this. This part, no, I was not.
to the test and developed procedural
Now I am.
generation systems to generate thousands upon thousands of random travelers, as well as their accompanying documents with just a click of a button. The dystopian document thriller, as Lucas
Right, that was a
calls
different
it,
game.
is
Okay.
set in the fictional country of Arstotzka, which might sound familiar to fans of the developer's work. Earlier in 2012, the developer wanted to flex his programming muscles in preparation for Ludum Dare, a popular game jam competition. The result was the Republia Times,
Oh,
a flash
okay, so he
game
made
where
a
the player
flash
takes
game
the role
for
of an
a
editor-in-chief
festival,
of one of
okay.
the main newspapers of Republia,
That's
a
cool.
country at war with Arstotzka. While it may seem that Lucas had ideas for a greater universe, he admits he had no intention of creating interconnected games. There was never an idea for the universe. The gameplay concept for the Republia Times is something that I had talked about with my wife a little bit. Like, I want to make a game that's just text that has to deal with propaganda. It just has two countries in it, which are just two typical battling countries with names that both sound similar and are typical doublespeak kind of names. He further explained that the Republia Times benefited greatly from its
Random topic, make a
dystopian
game for that
fascist
topic.
setting,
That's
because
cool.
you can just tell the player they have to do this because your communist government is telling you that that's your job, and those are the rules. Incidentally, this backdrop also suited Papers, Please's concept. That played into Papers, Please perfectly, because I had the core mechanics of moving papers around and comparing information, but I didn't have any setting, and from the beginning, there was no idea that this was going to be in the same universe. The look and feel of Papers,
As if I was to create a game, I'd probably make spin-offs. or I say spin-offs, but still canon to like what's going on. Because when you do create a game, I feel like it would be hard to kind of keep it to one thing. If you have such a great idea and you want to confine that to like one game, that's awesome. But sometimes you think you have more at stake here and you're like, hey, I can make a universe. I can create this. I can create that. I could do more with my concept. You know, it's a lot of work though to develop a world and all these different genres within it. The Merry Christmas, woohoo! But you know, hey, sometimes you do just want to keep it simple. Say fuck the rest. It's too
Papers,
much.
Please has a very Orwellian vibe to it, and that's no coincidence. Lucas is naturally attracted to Orwellian communist bureaucracy ever since reading Orwell's 1984, so those themes come a little easier to him. He's also naturally OCD, so building a world ruled by rigid systems imposes a structure that he likes. While it's clear that the game takes place in a communist setting, Lucas was very careful with the wording and certain descriptions. He worked hard to make it so Arstotzka wasn't specifically anything, and made it more like a collection of tropes than anything else, since the developer believes that makes the setting richer. Anytime there'd be something that would nail it down as Soviet, Lucas would leave it out or smooth it over. A good example of this is the fact that the word comrade is never used, because that would otherwise indicate that the game takes place in Soviet Russia, and Lucas believes that would have hurt the game.
Mochi, calm down.
As work on Papers, Please continued, the indie developer thought of more ways to expand the core mechanics, making them more interesting as the player progresses. However, Lucas didn't just want to dump them on the player without any context. Therefore, he added more story elements to Papers, Please, which not only gives players more context, but also places them in difficult moral dilemmas. For example, some travelers will try to bribe the player to let them through with false papers.
Yes,
the extra
sir.
money could help
Welcome
pay
to
for you and
Bilgewater.
your family's bills, but it could also get you into trouble with your superiors if you keep taking bribes. Besides providing context, these story elements also gave Lucas the opportunity to help players understand the political difficulties of running a border control checkpoint. I wanted to show that in politics, all sides of any kind of issue have some justification. There's not just the good guys and the bad guys. Even the bad guys have some justification for why they want to do something. I felt like that kind of setup would work well in the game, where I could explain to the player why things are happening and get them on board a little bit with some of the less nice things that go on to help them understand.
Mochi, go! 1 sec, this dog isn't letting me watch my video. No! Go, go. He's licking the cheese out of my toes. All right, let's go.
And that running a checkpoint is hard. Lucas said that taking all the scripted interactions, rule changes, border attacks, nighttime events, and longer story arcs and combining them into both a sensible narrative and an effective sequence of gameplay progress was by far the most difficult part of development that took weeks to fine-tune and countless rearrangements. According to the developer, the game teeters on this complicated network of dependencies, so adding even one little encounter or rule could mess up all the scheduling for the rest of the game. In April 2013, the game was submitted to Steam Greenlight, but Lucas was convinced it wouldn't get enough votes to be approved, despite receiving positive feedback from the independent gaming source community.
Disloyal gifted a sub. Hey, bro, thank you, man. Appreciate it, buddy.
To his surprise, however, after only a couple of days, Papers, Please received plenty of votes to earn the right to be distributed on Steam. He credits that sudden success to a lot of big YouTubers that made videos playing the public betas of the game. As a kid, the developer loved watching other people play games, and would pine after VHS tapes of people beating Nintendo games. Therefore, seeing other people playing his own game was a huge ego boost for Lucas. The internet was loving Papers, Please, so much in fact that you would randomly find phrases like "Glory to Arstotzka" on message boards and comment sections. Pictures of people cosplaying as the border control inspector started circulating online as well. Seeing all this, Lucas decided to show his appreciation by inviting the community to send their names to be included in the game. He did add that joke names wouldn't be implemented, and he also asked people to make their names more Eastern Bloc style if possible. The response he got was almost too much to handle for one developer. Nearly 30,000 unique names were sent in, although after inspection only half were usable. Many of the names were popular fictional characters, and others were Czech, Finnish or Polish names, whose English translations aren't printable. As Lucas shared more and
Jack
more
also
progress
introduced me to
on
this
the
game. That must have been
forum,
so long
some
ago,
people
right?
criticized
I just
some
found
of
out
the more
about this game
simplistic
a week
elements
ago.
of the game, like
2
the
weeks
family
ago.
status screen that lacked any visual representation. The developer addressed this and said it wasn't because of time constraints or laziness, rather he simply wanted to keep things vague and non-judgmental throughout the game. That way, players can more easily project their own family onto the family in the game. This follows through to the game's daytime encounters as well. I worked hard to reduce the amount of dialogue, keep things ambiguous, leave some things unresolved, and to rely on the player's imagination to fill in the blanks. At a certain point during development, Lucas realized that Papers, Please was becoming more than just a game that was purely entertaining to play. By adding more characters and story-driven situations that question the moral compass of the player, the indie game was being compared to other empathy games like Card Life. This was no accident, however, as Lucas intentionally added those elements to show how challenging it is to be a border control inspector, to have to make those difficult decisions every day. A lot of that came from just my worldview, which is that any polarizing issue has got legitimate stances on either side of it. The empathy angle rose up from the way the story developed, and how I could see the mechanics working with the story. I wanted to add a search scanner, so you can see the person naked. Okay, there's a reason for this. It's because there's a suicide bomber. So you kind of see both sides of why it is you need this thing. But also the suicide bombers are really rare, and you don't really know a lot about their motivations. You feel a little bit skeezy scanning everybody from this one place. I wanted that to happen too. The trailer Lucas had put together for the Steam Greenlight submission promised the game would be released in summer 2013, and that launch window was fast approaching. Being a solo developer without even a publisher meant Lucas had to not only develop the game, but also take care of things like marketing, making the webpage, sending out review codes, signing contracts for the distribution, set up store pages, and much more. Since he was so busy actually making the game this whole time, all that other stuff had to be done in the final 2 weeks leading up to the release date of August 8th, 2013.
Same thing with Northern Journey.
In
Remember
those
Northern
final
Journey?
Weeks, it wasn't
the guy
until
went out
3
into
days
the
before
wild and
release
started
date that Lucas
recording
managed to finish
noises
the
and
game.
scanning plants.
To say he was under a lot of stress at the time is probably putting it lightly. Of course, he could have easily delayed the game, but he wanted to keep that promise of summer 2013 above all else. He didn't want to disappoint fans, especially not after all the positive reception the game had already received during its development. One can't help but wonder if it would have been easier if Lucas had hired more people to help during development, and he was asked exactly that during an interview with Edge magazine. My personality, if I was managing people, I'd be a micromanager. I'd be a terrible manager, basically. The good thing about doing everything yourself is that if you get tired of one thing, you can do something else, and you're still being productive.
True.
You're not stepping away completely, you're switching away to some other task. That was really useful during development. The indie developer ultimately managed to keep his original promise and release Papers, Please on August 8th, 2013. The game was met with critical and commercial success, scoring an 85 on Metacritic and selling over 1.8 million copies by August 2016,
That's
including
crazy.
sales from ported versions on Linux, iOS, and PlayStation Vita. Unsurprisingly, the indie title dominated the Games Award season in 2014 and won plenty of awards at numerous Game Award shows. Papers, Please became by far the biggest and most popular game that Lucas had ever done. The former Naughty Dog employee had found success all by himself and was now known all over the gaming industry. It was no longer necessary to honor the deal he had made with his wife, because Papers, Please's financial success basically meant Lucas is free to do what he wants, without having to worry about an income. There is one downside, however. Now that he's a staple in the industry, he feels a lot more pressure with whatever he decides to do next. It was nice when I was just releasing games and nobody knew about them. Nobody cares and you can do what you want.
Now you have expectations.
Looking back
Yeah.
at the whole experience, there's only one thing that annoyed Lucas. Many reviews pointed out that the game is something everyone should play, but that it's not exactly fun to play. He can see why those reviewers were saying
thought it
that,
was fun.
but the developer always tries to put fun first when developing a game, and wants players to just enjoy his creations above anything else. He does understand where those comments come from, and said that it's part of the narrative for empathy games. Lucas thinks the news cycle portrays empathy games as not fun because there's something different than what came before them, so you have to define them differently. Luckily though, developing and releasing Papers, Please was mostly a dream come true for Lucas, as he's now able to continue the rest of his career as a full-time indie developer.
Which is cool.
He released his next game, Return of the
That's a
Obra Dinn,
great-
in
yeah.
2019, and decided to take a little break after that to spend time with his family. I've been making a lot of promises that I need to follow up on, things I gotta do for my wife, a stack of games taller than me that I need to get through, movies I need to watch, things I need to do with my kids, things I need to build with my kids. Lucas mentioned that his next game is probably going to be something smaller scale than Papers, Please and Return of the Obra Dinn.
So those
but
are the
then
only two games he made, which we actually played both of, which actually both are amazing. That's awesome. That's incredible. Yeah.
again, he initially planned on making the latter game something smaller as well. Now that this initial follow-up is done and over with, maybe I won't feel so much pressure to make the next game perfect. I thought Obra Dinn would be small, but it wasn't, so I'll just try again, to do something small.
Oh, did he make another one in 2024? Cool shit, man. You gotta respect that stuff. You know, I wasn't really so into gaming in the last few years. And seeing the stories and seeing the development and seeing the passion and the ability to create all of these incredible things from thin air is so exciting. You know, if you don't have the budget or can direct something, maybe make a game. If you like, remember when they said Kojima? Kojima was kind of like a supposed failed director, and he went to gaming. Art in a nutshell. I mean, it's really cool. I'm done. I'm not queuing up or doing anything. I'm done right now. I'm going to bed. You know, you do have to learn all these things to create games or maybe work with people, but it really is something special. Kojima is God. Kojima is awesome. Kojima is awesome. The fact that this guy can just say, hey, let's do it, and it gets done, and it turns out to be great, is so good. It's so fun. It's so fresh. I would say I get the level of excitement playing a FromSoft game that I do playing, like, Death Stranding. That's really what I get. But yeah, you know, again, you got to respect these guys. They go out of their way. They have the vision. They execute on the vision, and they pray people enjoy their vision. And that is very, very, very commendable. Even if it doesn't turn out so great, which in this case it did, you got to commend the spirit of someone who just wants to create something that they believe in and want to share it with people. So, great fucking game, great set of games, and, you know, in terms of the rating of the game and how I enjoyed it, I'm still going to leave it at an 8, but a lot of these games, production-wise, are above an 8. You know, the overall effort and love for a game usually is above the rating that you might initially give it based on how you enjoyed it. So, yeah, it's an 8. Papers, Please is great. Oberdeen, I think I gave like an 8 as well, maybe an 8.5. Oh, where is Oberdeen? So Oberdeen should be here somewhere. Mr. Mayo, right before bed. Geez, sir, I'm going to be snoozing off to Subland. Mr. Mayo for 5 gifted subs. Love the yapping session, boss. Much love. Hey, thank you, sir. Hey, you know, we talk shop here, man, whatever it may be. It's cool to talk about entertainment, I think, and kind of... A lot of people share in that entertainment. People have played Papers, Please. People have played a lot of the games we've played, and it's cool to converse about that stuff. You know, it gives you a more of an appreciation for things past the game itself. And I think that's how you truly enjoy content. You know, it's one thing to play the game. It's another thing to understand everything that went into it. It makes it a lot better. And Mr. Mayo, for 5 gifted subs, can I give you the final spin of the night, sir? Can I give you the final spin of the night before I go to sleep? Jeez. We're done, Papers, Please. We finished the whole game. You want to spin? You got it, sir. Oberdeen was a 7.5. I think I preferred Papers, Please more than Oberdeen. I think Oberdeen was more so in story that kind of dragged me out, and there was a lot of like downtime in figuring things out. That was really up to you though, and how smart you were. But Mr. Mayo, 25%. That is going to be $7.50. There you are, sir. Time has been added, and now the timer will be paused. How do I consistently show up at the end of the stream? I stream all day. Today we had to leave for about 2 hours. I had to go deal with some stuff, and then we came back, and we have been streaming all day. And we've been streaming all day for 7 months straight. But right now, it is time for me to go. All right, folks, so YouTube, that is the after hours of Papers, Please. Just to wrap things up, great game. Great dev, interesting, you know, process in creating this stuff. You know, knowing that one person made everything, one person, you know, quit their job, had the vision, went off with their wife. That's cool, dude. I think a lot of game devs, at the end of the day, would love to do stuff like that because that's really impressive. But YouTube, that is it. Papers, Please is wrapped up. Tomorrow we've got, I think, Split Fiction with Rainsden. Maybe we'll see. Maybe on Sunday. But yeah. YouTube, good night. Have a great evening, good morning, wherever you're from. And we will reconvene tomorrow. Peace, peace. So YouTube is done. There is the